they told you time was running out. And maybe you believed them. Maybe you looked at the calendar and thought it was too late. Too late to start. Too late to rebuild. Too late to change directions. But let me remind you of something powerful. Something simple and profound. It's never too late. Not for the one who decides to act. Not for the one who takes personal responsibility for their life and their choices. You see, life doesn't stop when you turn 30 or 40 or 60. Life keeps moving. And the good news is, the tragedy is not that time has passed. The tragedy is believing that the time that passed defines the rest of your future. It does not. What defines your future is what you decide to do next. This very moment, the decision to stop drifting and start directing your life. It's never too late to rewrite the script you've been following. It's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. But here's the truth that most people never hear. The world is not waiting for you to be ready. The world is not holding its breath for you to feel confident or clear or certain. The world will keep turning. The question is, will you turn with it or stay frozen where you are? The clock is ticking. Yes, but not as a threat. As a reminder, every tick says now. Every tick says start now. Not later. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Because later is the dream killer. Later is the enemy of change and progress. You don't need perfect conditions. You need commitment. You don't need applause or approval. You need purpose and persistence. I've seen people at 60 turn their lives around with one clear decision. I've seen men and women who thought their dreams were buried under debt and doubt rise up and reclaim their destiny. Not because it was easy, but because they finally realized it was still possible. The moment you decide that your life matters more than your excuses, everything changes. It's not about what you've lost. It's about what you're willing to pursue from this day forward. And if you're waiting for motivation, let me offer you something better. Disciplina. Because motivation comes and goes. But discipline gets you up. Discipline makes you move when the bed is warm and the world is cold. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks what you want and whether you're willing to earn it. There are people out there with less time and more obstacles doing more than you because they decided they would not waste another day. Regret is heavy, but discipline is light. The weight of discipline builds strength. The weight of regret only builds sorrow. You must choose the pain of progress or the pain of staying the same. And I assure you, the first one leads somewhere. Great. You may be thinking, but I've made mistakes. I've failed too many times. But I say, welcome to the club. Failure is not the end unless you let it be. Failure is simply the feedback life gives the committed. It says, this didn't work. Now do better. Now learn. Now grow. If you are willing to see failure as your teacher, you'll find that you are never truly behind. You are just refining your path. Remember this. You are not your past. You are not your missed opportunities. You are not your worst decisions. You are the sum of what you do now, what you choose now, what you build from this moment on. So stand up. Even if it feels late, even if the doubt is loud, stand up and take one step, then another, and keep going. Because the world may not be cheering, but your future self is watching. And he is hoping you choose the hard road today so that he can walk the victorious one tomorrow. It's never too late. But it will be if you keep waiting. Stop waiting for the right time and become the right person. Now, the one who acts, the one who dares, the one who rewrites the end of their story, not with excuses, but with courage. And if you think that small steps don't matter, let me remind you that every mountain is climbed one step at a time. Greatness doesn't show up overnight. It shows up in small, quiet choices, repeated with determination. And when you look back, you will see that it wasn't one grand gesture that saved your life. It was the day you stopped saying someday and started saying now. Now is the time. Now is your moment. Now is when you begin. They say change takes time. But what they forget to tell you is that time only serves those who use it wisely. If you keep waiting for the right moment to begin, you'll find yourself at the end of another year, wondering where it all went. Time doesn't slow down because you're afraid. Time doesn't pause because you're uncertain. Time simply moves. And the question is, are you moving with it? Are you building something with every passing day? Or are you letting those days slip through your fingers like sand? Because no matter how much you wish it weren't true, one truth remains. You are either creating momentum or you are creating regret. The difference between those who rise and those who remain behind is not luck. It's not intelligence. It's the quiet decision to stop wasting time on distractions and start investing time in progress. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they never make the shift from intention to action. They speak about what they want. They dream about who they could become. But they never translate those thoughts into work. And work, my friend, is the bridge between your present and your future. You can read the books. You can listen to the podcasts. You can plan and prepare. But until you move, nothing changes. Motion beats meditation when it comes to results. Clarity is born from movement, not from overthinking. And the moment you take a single honest step forward, you begin to separate yourself from the masses. Most people are waiting to feel ready. They say, I'll do it when I feel more confident, when I have more time, when life calms down. But the truth is, life rarely calms down. And confidence doesn't come before the action. It comes after. It grows when you do the thing you once believed you couldn't do. Confidence is built in the doing, in the trying, in the failing, and continuing anyway. And if you truly want to change, if you want to create a new chapter in your life, then stop romanticizing comfort. Comfort is the silent killer of ambition. It makes you believe that staying still is safer than stepping forward. But it's not. It's just slower death. The death of dreams. The death of discipline. The death of potential. Real growth requires discomfort. It demands that you stretch beyond your habits, that you challenge your thoughts, and that you do things that scare you. Because on the other side of fear is where your new identity waits to be born. Not the old you, full of hesitation and delay, but the upgraded version, forged in fire and pressure, shaped by choices made in silence while others sleep. Don't mistake silence for stillness. Silence is where giants are made. You don't need loud praise. You need silent progress. The world doesn't have to see what you're building yet. What matters is that you are building it every day, with consistency, with patience, with self-respect. Because when you honor your own word, you begin to trust yourself again. And trust is the foundation of change. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. Don't delay. Don't negotiate with your lesser self. Don't explain it away. Just do the thing. And do it with intensity. Because that's how you break the cycle of disappointment. You prove to yourself that you can be counted on. And that is more valuable than any motivation in the world. You will not feel powerful every day. You will not feel excited or energized. But none of that matters if you've built the habit of showing up. Discipline is not about doing what you love. It's about doing what's required, regardless of how you feel. And if you want a life that reflects your highest potential, then build it one disciplined day at a time. Stop looking for shortcuts and start trusting the long road, the boring road, the quiet road where nothing seems to happen fast. Because that's where the roots grow deep. And when the storm comes, and it will come, you will not fall. Because you built yourself on principles not preference. On effort, not emotion. On commitment, not convenience. This is how the 1% live. They understand that results don't belong to the passionate. They belong to the disciplined, the ones who keep going when the novelty wears off, the ones who write their legacy in the margins of each ordinary day. So ask yourself this: are you living a story worth telling? Or are you waiting for someone to hand you a better script? Because no one's coming with a pen. The pen is already in your hand, and the page is blank. Write something powerful, and begin today. You see, the reason most people stay stuck is not because they lack time or talent. It's because they've made peace with being average. They've accepted a life that is smaller than what they're capable of. Not because they truly believe they belong there, but because staying small feels safer than risking failure. People would rather be comfortably miserable than uncomfortably growing. They would rather repeat the same day for years than face the fear of uncertainty. But that kind of living isn't living at all. It's merely surviving. And you were not put on this earth just to survive. You were built to expand, to grow, to pursue something meaningful and fulfilling. And it begins with a choice, not a perfect plan, not a burst of inspiration, but a decisión, a quiet, firm decision that says, I will no longer waste what I've been given. I will no longer pretend that I have forever. I will no longer wait for the stars to align before I act. Because here's the truth. Your future doesn't begin someday. It begins when you decide that today is enough. Your new path doesn't require permission. It requires conviction. You don't need the world to believe in you. You need to believe in yourself. Even when it feels like no one else does. Even when the evidence of your progress hasn't shown up yet. Even when you're surrounded by doubt. Because belief isn't born in applause. It's born in the silence of early mornings. When no one's watching. When no one's clapping. When it's just you and your dream and a choice to show up or back down. And the longer you wait to believe in your own power, the more you hand over your future to fear. You have to reclaim your authority, not from others, but from yourself. From that small voice inside that keeps saying maybe later, maybe next time, maybe when I feel more ready. Because the truth is, you won't feel ready, and you won't feel certain. Not at first. The only way to feel capable is to begin when you don't feel like it. To move when it would be easier to stay still. To act when your mind says wait. Because every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. And the more you act in alignment with your highest self, the stronger your identity becomes. And that identity will become your compass when life gets hard. Because it will get hard. There will be days when nothing seems to move. When the weight feels heavier than usual. When progress feels invisible. And in those moments you will have a choice. Will you go back to your comfort zone? Or will you lean into the challenge? Because the comfort zone is not a sanctuary. It is a cage. A trap wrapped in soft blankets. And if you stay there long enough, it will rob you of your urgency, your drive, your hunger to do something extraordinary. And that hunger matters because your goals will not chase you. You must chase them relentlessly, daily, with clarity and commitment. And no, it doesn't mean you'll be perfect. It means you'll be persistent. It means you'll learn from every stumble, from every missed step, from every delay, and you'll keep going. Because the people who win are not the ones who never fell. They're the ones who never stop getting back up. And you must decide now, are you willing to keep rising? Are you willing to keep building? Even when the world offers you 1,000 reasons to quit. Because deep down you know the truth. Quitting doesn't make the pain disappear. It just turns the pain into regret. And regret is a prison you carry with you for life. So choose the effort now, so you don't carry the weight of later. Choose the climb now. So one day you can stand at the top and say, I did not wait. I did not waste what I was given. I did not let fear write my story. I chose to rise, and I chose to begin, because it's never too late to make that decision. And it's never too soon to start becoming who you were meant to be. The greatest shift in your life will not come from what happens to you. It will come from how you respond to what happens. You see, life is going to test you. It's going to stretch you. It's going to give you every reason to shrink back and settle. But those who rise understand one thing deeply. The obstacle is not the enemy. The delay is not the defeat. And the failure is not the finish line. They know that life is not a straight road. It is full of sharp turns, detours, and storms that come without warning. But they keep going anyway, because they've learned to see resistance as a form of training. Every setback is an invitation to develop strength. Every disappointment is a mirror that reveals your level of commitment. And every painful moment is a seed for future growth. The question is not whether you will face adversity. The question is, what kind of person will you become in the midst of it? Because adversity introduces you to yourself. It strips away the noise, the comfort, and the illusion, and it leaves you with the raw truth. Either you will choose to grow through it, or you will let it break you, and the choice is yours. Always has been. Always will be. You do not control the weather of your life, but you do control the sails. You do control the direction you point your energy. And you do control how long you stay stuck. Too many people treat setbacks like life sentences, when in fact they are just lessons. Nothing more. Nothing less. You fell short. So what? You made a mistake. Welcome to being human. The goal is not to be flawless. The goal is to be relentless. To keep showing up with wisdom earned through experience, not excuses handed down through fear. Because the only thing worse than falling is never rising again. And the only thing more painful than failure is staying the same out of fear of failing again. So, decide today to rise. Decide to look at your circumstances with honesty, not self-pity. And ask yourself, am I doing what I can with what I have? Am I owning my role in where I am, or am I waiting for someone else to save me? Because here's the truth. No one is coming to rescue you. This is your life, your dream, your responsibility. And while that may sound harsh, it's actually the most empowering truth of all. Because if it's yours to change, then it's yours to reclaim, and that means you can begin again. Stronger, wiser, sharper than you've ever been. And you don't need to prove it to anyone else. The world doesn't need more performers. It needs more builders. People who are willing to work on themselves from the inside out. Who are willing to stay up late or get up early. Who are willing to put their ego aside and become a student of life. The ones who win are not the loudest. They're the most consistent. They're the ones who treat every day like a deposit into their future. They understand that greatness is not one big moment. It's thousands of small moments done well. And done on days when they didn't feel like it. If you only show up when it's easy, you'll never get far. But if you can learn to show up when it's hard, when it's quiet, when no one is watching, that's where the compound effect begins to kick in. And slowly but surely, your actions start to shape your identity. And your identity starts to shape your future. And that future becomes something you no longer fear, but something you look forward to, not because it will be perfect, but because you will have earned every bit of it through discipline, through clarity, through effort and intention. So if today feels heavy, if the mountain looks too high, just take one step, and then another, because the magic is not in the speed. The magic is in the refusal to stop. Your story is not over, not even close. And the next chapter begins the moment you say, I'm not done yet. I've got more to give, more to become, and I'm not turning back. You must understand that the life you want is not built by chance. It is built by change, And the hardest change is not the world around you. It is the change within you. The moment you realize that your mindset determines your movement, everything begins to shift. Your habits, your focus, your choices, all begin to align when you take full ownership of your internal world. Because let me tell you the truth that most people avoid. The external conditions will never be perfect. The people around you will not always be supportive. The opportunities will not fall from the sky. But none of that matters if you become the kind of person who doesn't wait for permission. You see, successful people don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They wake up each day and claim the responsibility of their own development. They don't say, I hope something good happens today. They say, I will make something meaningful happen today. And that attitude, that personal responsibility, is what separates the average from the excellent. You can spend years hoping for a lucky break. Or you can spend those same years becoming so good they can't ignore you. And the beauty is, you get to decide that you don't have to stay stuck in old stories or outdated beliefs. You don't have to replay the voice that says it's too late or you've missed your shot. That voice is a liar. It was built by fear and reinforced by comfort. And every time you listen to it, you strengthen its grip. But every time you act in spite of it, you weaken its control. You don't need to silence your doubt to take action. You need to stop letting it lead you. Doubt is part of the process. Fear is part of the process. But direction and courage come when you stop letting your emotions decide your behavior and start letting your vision dictate your discipline. Because discipline is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you started. It matters what you're committed to daily. And that commitment shows up in the small things. The way you speak to yourself. The way you manage your time. The way you move when no one is pushing you. Because consistency builds trust. And trust builds momentum. And momentum builds transformation. But none of it starts unless you start. And not someday, but now, not when you feel ready. Not when someone tells you to go, but the moment you decide this is my time. This is my turn. This is my responsibility. Because if you wait long enough, your excuses will become your identity. And you will wear them like armor, protecting you from the pain of effort, but also from the joy of growth. And if you want a new life, you must first be willing to let go of the old one. The one built on delay, on hesitation, on waiting for everything to feel just right. Because nothing grows in that soil. Only frustration and regret. But if you water your days with action, if you fill your mornings with purpose, if you build your nights with reflection, then you begin to grow something real, something strong, something lasting. And that kind of growth, the kind you earn one decision at a time, that becomes who you are, not just what you do. So stop hoping for change and become the change. Stop waiting for the opportunity and become the one who creates it. Stop wondering if it's possible and start proving that it is, through effort, through movement, through showing up again and again, not because it's easy, but because you made a promise to yourself and you intend to keep it. You must understand that the life you want is not built by chance. It is built by change. And the hardest change is not the world around you. It is the change within you. The moment you realize that your mindset determines your movement, everything begins to shift. Your habits, your focus, your choices, all begin to align when you take full ownership of your internal world. Because let me tell you the truth, that most people avoid, the external conditions will never be perfect. The people around you will not always be supportive. The opportunities will not fall from the sky. But none of that matters if you become the kind of person who doesn't wait for permission. You see, successful people don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They wake up each day and claim the responsibility of their own development. They don't say, I hope something good happens today. They say, I will make something meaningful happen today. And that attitude, that personal responsibility, is what separates the average from the excellent. You can spend years hoping for a lucky break, or you can spend those same years becoming so good they can't ignore you. And the beauty is, you get to decide that you don't have to stay stuck in old stories or outdated beliefs. You don't have to replay the voice that says it's too late, or you've missed your shot. That voice is a liar. It was built by fear and reinforced by comfort. And every time you listen to it, you strengthen its grip. But every time you act in spite of it, you weaken its control. You don't need to silence your doubt to take action. You need to stop letting it lead you. Doubt is part of the process. Fear is part of the process. But direction and courage come when you stop letting your emotions decide your behavior and start letting your vision dictate your discipline. Because discipline is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you start. It matters what you're committed to daily. And that commitment shows up in the small things. The way you speak to yourself, the way you manage your time, the way you move when no one is pushing you. Because consistency builds trust, and trust builds momentum. And momentum builds transformation. But none of it starts unless you start, and not someday, but now. Not when you feel ready. Not when someone tells you to go. But the moment you decide, this is my time. This is my turn. This is my responsibility. Because if you wait long enough, your excuses will become your identity. And you will wear them like armor, protecting you from the pain of effort, but also from the joy of growth. And if you want a new life, you must first be willing to let go of the old one, the one built on delay, on hesitation, on waiting for everything to feel just right. Because nothing grows in that soil, only frustration and regret. But if you water your days with action, if you fill your mornings with purpose, if you build your nights with reflection, then you begin to grow something real, something strong, something lasting. And that kind of growth, the kind you earn one decision at a time, that becomes who you are, not just what you do. So stop hoping for change and become the change. Stop waiting for the opportunity and become the one who creates it. Stop wondering if it's possible and start proving that it is through effort, through movement, through showing up again and again, not because it's easy, but because you made a promise to yourself and you intend to keep it. You have to understand that results follow rhythm, not randomness. Success is not something you stumble into. It is something you build through structure, repetition, and consistency. Most people live in reaction mode. They respond to problems. They respond to pressure. They respond to deadlines. But they rarely create from vision. They rarely build from intention. And that is why they struggle. Not because they are incapable, but because they live by default, not by design. You have to break that pattern. And the way you do it is through daily discipline, through crafting a routine that supports the life you want. Not the life you fear. Not the life you inherited. Not the life others expect. But the life you are choosing with clarity every single day. The life that requires you to show up even when motivation is gone. Because motivation may get you started. But it is rhythm that keeps you going. It is the daily action, the small repeated efforts, the conversations you have with yourself every morning, the way you speak, the way you think, the way you move when no one is watching. That is what separates the dreamers from the doers. So if you feel lost, if you feel stuck, if you feel like the distance between who you are and who you want to become is too far, it is time to stop thinking in leaps and start thinking in steps. It is time to make today count, not because you see massive progress, But because you made a move in the right direction, and that move, no matter how small, reinforces a new identity, a new standard, a new mindset. And identity is everything. Because your habits will never outgrow your belief. You will only act in alignment with who you think you are. If you believe you are lazy, you will find reasons to quit. If you believe you are inconsistent, you will look for proof of failure. If you believe you are behind, you will keep comparing yourself and never begin. But if you believe you are disciplined, if you believe you are focused, if you believe you are capable of doing hard things, you will begin to see that every moment becomes an opportunity to live out that truth. So what identity are you choosing today? Not with your words, but with your actions. Because actions build evidence, and evidence builds belief, and belief builds momentum, and momentum builds results. And it all begins with what you decide to do today, not what you say, not what you hope, not what you wish, but what you choose to do right now, when no one else is forcing you, when no one is clapping for you, when it is hard, and when it is quiet. The difference between being stuck and being powerful is not circumstance. It is the decision to act. It is the moment when you say, I do not need to know everything. I just need to do the next thing. I do not need to see the full staircase. I just need to take the first step. And once you take that step, you have to keep taking them, day after day, with intention, with patience, with focus, not because you feel like it, but because you know that if you do not take ownership, someone else will. And if you let the world decide your value, if you let your fears decide your future, if you let your old habit decide your next move, you will always stay in the same place. But if you decide that today is the beginning of a new rhythm, if you decide that your time matters, your effort matters, your life matters, you will begin to feel that shift. Not in fireworks, but in quiet confidence that grows stronger every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you follow through, every time you finish what you start, because that is how self-respect is built. And self-respect is the foundation for transformation, not because others approve, but because you know you have earned it, not in one day, but in many days, stacked together into something solid and unshakable. And that kind of life, the one built with rhythm, the one built with purpose, that is always within reach. If you are willing to start where you are and keep going, no matter how you feel, the moment you take full responsibility for your life is the moment everything begins to change. Because as long as you blame the past, the people, the pain, or the pressure, you hand over the power to something outside of you. And when your life depends on something outside of you, it will always be unstable. But when you decide that your results are yours, your actions are yours, your outcomes are yours, you step into a place where progress becomes possible. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is within reach. Once you stop making excuses and start making effort, you begin to reclaim what has always been yours. Your power, your potential, your purpose. Most people never change. Not because they can't, but because they are more committed to their story than to their future. They replay the same narrative again and again and wonder why the result never shifts. They say, this is who I am. This is how I've always been. But let me ask you, who wrote that story? And why do you keep reading it as if it's truth? When in reality it is just a pattern. And every pattern can be broken. The truth is, you are not fixed. You are not frozen. You are not finished. You are becoming, and who you become is determined by what you're willing to challenge today. Your comfort, your doubt, your distraction, your delay, those are the enemies. Not the world, not other people, not the competition. The real war is inside, between the part of you that wants to grow and the part of you that wants to rest. And every day, you feed one or the other. And over time, one becomes stronger, and one becomes weaker. And that decision shows up not in grand moments, but in tiny choices, in the discipline to get up early, in the focus to ignore the noise, in the commitment to finish what you start. And while most people chase intensity, what truly changes your life is consistency. It's not about how hard you go today. It's about whether you're still going next week, next month, next year. Because most people quit before the results arrive. They give up because they don't see instant evidence. But success was never about the speed. It was always about the direction. And if you keep showing up, if you keep choosing discipline over drama, growth over comfort, effort over excuse, you will arrive, not by accident, but by design. And you will look back not with regret, but with gratitude, because you'll know you did not wait for life to hand you anything. You built it. You earned it, one choice at a time. So today, ask yourself, what are you building? What are you strengthening? What are you feeding? And if you don't like the answer, good, because that means you're awake. And when you're awake, you can change. Not later, not someday. But right now, most people want change, but they are not willing to change. They want the reward, but avoid the responsibility. They want the result, but refuse the process. And that is why they stay stuck. They chase comfort in every corner of their life and wonder why nothing feels fulfilling. The truth is, fulfillment does not come from ease. It comes from alignment. It comes from knowing that your actions match your values. Your habits match your vision. Your time matches your priorities. And that only happens when you stop living by reaction and start living by design. The world is full of distractions, and every distraction has one goal: to pull you away from what matters most. You must protect your focus like it is your greatest asset. Because it is. Your focus determines your future. Your ability to concentrate on what truly counts separates the achievers from the talkers. So ask yourself, what is stealing your focus today? What conversations, what habits, what beliefs are draining your attention without giving you any return? And are you brave enough to cut them out? Not out of fear, but out of discipline. Not because you are running away, but because you are running towards something greater. Because the higher you climb, the more ruthless you must be with your environment. Success is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters most, again and again, with excellence, with energy, with intensity. And that requires clarity. Clarity about who you are and who you are becoming. And that clarity only comes through action. Not overthinking, not waiting, not seeking permission, but doing the thing you said you would do long after the mood you said it in has faded. It comes from honoring your word, especially to yourself. The way you build confidence is not by being perfect. It is by keeping promises, not to the world, but to you when you say you will show up. You show up when you say you will push forward. You push forward, not for applause, but for alignment, not for attention, but for integrity. Because a person who keeps their word becomes a person of strength. And a person of strength becomes a person of influence. And influence begins with self-mastery. Mastery over your mornings. Mastery over your distractions. Mastery over your emotions. And most importantly, mastery over your decisions. Because every day, you decide who you are becoming, not in one grand gesture, but in every small act repeated with purpose. And if you want to change your life, Change what you do consistently. And if you want to shift your identity, shift what you tolerate from yourself. Raise the standard. Remove the noise. Return to your priorities. And move with urgency. Not panic. But purpose, because life will not wait for you to feel ready. Opportunity will not pause while you hesitate. Your future is waiting on the other side of your decision to act now, with clarity, with focus, with discipline, and with consistency. There comes a time when you must stop asking for the life you want and start becoming the person who can create it. Because no dream will outgrow the level of discipline you are willing to apply. And no goal will last without the habits that sustain it. People talk about vision like it is magic. But vision without structure is only fantasy. And structure without action is just theory. And action without consistency is just noise. What you need is harmony. The alignment of vision and structure and daily follow-through. Because that is what turns the impossible into the inevitable. Not luck. Not shortcuts. Not motivation. But old-fashioned effort multiplied over time. Effort that shows up when you are tired, when you are uninspired, when no one is watching and no one is clapping. That is when the most important work is done. And most people miss it because they keep waiting for the fire. But the truth is, the fire comes after the first spark. And the spark is your decision. Your decision to stop watching other people build their lives and finally start building yours. No more wishing. No more complaining. No more comparing. Just working and refining and adjusting and moving. Because when you are moving, you are growing. And when you are growing, you are changing. And when you are changing, you are building a new future. One that looks nothing like your past. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you became better. You became sharper, more focused, more intentional, more resilient. Not because someone handed it to you, but because you demanded it from yourself and kept showing up again and again. Not loud, not flashy, just consistent and committed. And that is the formula you don't need to write down. You need to live it, one day at a time. Because eventually, effort compounds. Character compounds, belief compounds, and before you know it, the things you once feared become familiar, and the things you once avoided become routine, and the goals you once thought were too far are now within reach. And it won't be because you were lucky. It will be because you were relentless. You have to remember that greatness is not a destination. It is a decision. And that decision must be made every single day. Not just once when you feel inspired. Not just when the conditions are perfect. But every day, in the middle of the noise, the doubt, the setbacks, and the silence. Because your life is being built in the unseen moments. In the quiet choices. In the things no one applauds. And no one shares. The world only sees the outcome. But you are the one who must live the process. And that process is where your power lives. It lives in the early mornings. When you rise before the world expects you to, it lives in the late nights. When you stay focused after the distractions have tried to pull you away. It lives in your ability to say no to what is easy and yes to what is necessary. And if you can learn to master those moments, you will learn to master your life. Not by force, but by alignment. Not by chasing, but by building brick by brick. You are creating the foundation of your future. And if the foundation is strong, the structure will last. But if the foundation is cracked with excuses, delay, and blame, then no matter how impressive it looks, it will eventually fall. So you must ask yourself, what kind of foundation am I laying with my daily habits? My attitude, my focus. Am I preparing for stability, or am I hoping for a shortcut? Because hope is not a strategy, and wishing is not a plan. Results come to those who are willing to do the work long after the excitement fades, who are willing to be patient while others seek comfort, who are willing to stay disciplined while others seek distraction. And the truth is, you are never too far gone, never too late, never too old, never too inexperienced to begin again. Because the power to change has always been in your hands. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things settle down. But now, this very moment, this is your reset, your line in the sand, your turning point, and you do not need a grand announcement or a public declaration. You just need a quiet decision, the kind that only you will feel, but that over time the world will not be able to ignore, because when you become consistent, everything changes. Not all at once, but little by little. Your energy shifts, your mindset sharpens, your character deepens, and the person you used to be becomes a distant memory. Not because you ran from them, but because you outgrew them, and that is the goal. To grow, not to impress, to evolve, not to explain, to rise, not to compete. You are not here to repeat yesterday. You are here to redeem it, to rewrite it, to rebuild it, and to show yourself what happens when you stop waiting and start deciding, because it is never too late, unless you keep telling yourself it is. So choose better thoughts. Choose stronger habits. Choose deeper commitment. And let every action you take become the proof that you didn't quit. You didn't settle. You didn't break. You simply decided that now is your time. And you never looked back. ChatGPT Dernier. It's never too late to take ownership of your life and start becoming the person you were meant to be, no matter how far off track you feel or how long you've been stuck. What matters is the decision you make right now to stop waiting and start moving, because the world won't pause for you and success won't knock on your door if you keep telling yourself maybe later. Change begins with personal responsibility, with the discipline to show up daily, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching, even when the results haven't arrived yet. This journey isn't about perfection. It's about consistency and the strength to keep choosing growth over comfort, one step at a time. Your dreams don't need luck. They need effort. They need clarity, and they need structure, because every small action builds belief, and every promise you keep to yourself rebuilds your confidence over time. You shift from being someone who waits to someone who creates, and when that shift happens, your past no longer defines you. Your daily habits. Do you build momentum not by force but by alignment? Aligning your values with your vision, your time with your priorities, and your actions with your identity. Because success is not found in intensity but in rhythm. Not in talking but in doing. Not in hoping but in building. And yes, it takes time, but that time is going to pass anyway. So the question is, what will you have to show for it? Will you be the person who finally broke the pattern, or the one who kept rehearsing the excuse your future is waiting for you to stop asking for permission and start earning it with courage, with focus, with daily quiet discipline? You don't need to prove anything to the world. You need to prove to yourself that you are willing to do what it takes, not once, but every single day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing to grow. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. If this message spoke to something inside you, if it reminded you of your strength, or helped you see your next step more clearly, please hit like and subscribe. It helps me keep showing up with more content like this. And here's my question to you. What is one excuse you're ready to stop telling yourself? Share it in the comments below. I read every one.